Okay, I think I'm alive. I'm not sure though. This is the first time for me to go live, so please bear with me. I I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. And hello, Michael. I am indeed live. And how are you? Good. Good to you. What time is it where you are now? Right, okay. So yeah, I'm celebrating the final half hour of my birthday. I've got a glass of whiskey here. Okie dokie. So yeah, I was gonna sort of use this. Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I really wanted to do something really different, and I've never done this before. So this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, um, but it's something that I've been really wanting to do for a while now. Which is, I think, live sort of can come across a little bit more authentic, really. Um, but yeah, I kind of just wanted to use this opportunity to sort of just chat about movies that have yet to come out this year and cinema releases that I'm looking forward to next year, and been a little bit behind the last couple of weeks in trying to catch up with cinema releases. There's so much that I haven't watched yet. There's movies that I do want to watch. Um so I used to go to the theater once or twice a week. Got our first kid last year. I'm lucky to make it once a month. Yeah, it's just you get certain things that sort of just happen, and it's like for me, a lot of what gets in the way is work. Like I work full time, so and I work in retail. So this time of year it does get quite busy. Still haven't seen the new Wicked yet. I do plan on seeing it. And Primitive Wars yeah, Primitive War came out this weekend. I really want to see that as well. When you say watching a lot at home these days, would that be streaming or do you collect physical media? I used to collect a lot of steel books, but they got way too expensive. I stream everything now. Yeah, it's a very, very expensive hobby to have. Um, as you can see, I collect quite a bit of physical media. Like I grew up on VHS, and for me, it's just the best way to, for me personally, to sort of revisit film when it's not in the cinema, and that is on physical media. But it is a very, very expensive hobby, and I can imagine, especially if you've got a child or kids. Um, yeah, it's yes, it is, and I bought a VHS player on eBay about a month ago now. Um, and I have started collecting VHSs again. Um, I'll actually show you now that they're over here. So I found these at a charity shop in Abergavenny, about 30 minutes from where I live. So you've got Mask of Zorro, um, which I remember renting this, or my parents rented it when it came out so we could watch it. And I started watching it the other day on my new setup that I've got sort of that I'm sort of growing in the background there behind the camera. And I forgot how enjoyable, how fun this movie was. Um, and I completely forgot that Anthony Hopkins is in it as well. I don't know how I could forget that. Oh, and the fact that his daughter, the actress playing his daughter, is Catherine Zeta-Jones. And then you've got GoldenEye that I found, and I believe this is the original VHS that came out in, would have been, the film came out in '95. This VHS, yeah. So the VHS by year is '96. And I'm quite happy. I was really, really happy to have this version because the VHSs I had of GoldenEye previously, back when I was a teenager growing up, they were the re-releases that came out where you had the sort of like that one big picture once you collected all the VHSs and it had all the different Bonds, Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore. but they were the editions that I had. So I was quite happy to have found this because this is the original VHS that came out back in '96. And then you got Titanic, um, which I'm sure I read somewhere that this when this originally came out, it was two VHSs, but I can only remember it being this one VHS. But yeah, and they were all £1 each. So that's kind of these are the three VHSs that have kind of got me back onto my journey of collecting um VHS. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't like over here in the UK. I think we only had when it came to Titanic, it was only ever the one VHS. And yeah, GoldenEye is a classic. It's one of my favorite Bond movies. But GoldenEye wasn't the Bond film that actually got me into Bond. It was actually A View to a Kill with Roger Moore, which is not a great Bond movie. Oops, technical mishap. But yeah, there's just something about the quality of the VHS. Like whatever, it's probably nostalgia because I grew up watching films on VHS, and that's where my love of film sort of stems from is watching movies on VHS. But there's just something about film, and it just adds a certain sort of realism and grit, no matter what the movie is, no matter what the experience is that you're watching. It just feels a little bit more tangible. Yeah, I so A View to a Kill. I just sort of came across randomly one night. We'd gone on holiday, so my parents would take us to Tenby, which is a popular holiday destination in Wales. It's in West Wales, and it's become really popular now over the years. But we used to go there every summer with my parents, and my nan would come with us. But in the night, when they'd go off to the club to have a drink, they would leave myself and my brother with my nan at the caravan. And I just remember we had the TV on, and I can just remember this film being on with a guy on skis, and he's being chased by these Russians. I believe they were Russians anyway, from what if I can remember correctly. But I just remember really enjoying it. It was so much fun, and yeah, that was my introduction to James Bond movies, which is one of the worst films, but I still have a lot of fun with A View to a Kill. And I'm a big fan of the Daniel Craig era as well. So I'm just making sure now that I don't get any more technical mishaps here. I've already had that to fall off. So let's have a look what we got coming out the rest of this year. We've got Silent Night, Deadly Night, the remake of the 1984 movie coming out on the 12th of December. What's my biggest surprise movie for 2025? Hmm, good question. Let's have a look. 'Cause at the moment, from the top of my head, one that I've seen recently, um, probably is Good Boy. I'm not sure if you've seen that. So Good Boy was a horror that was told a horror story told through the perspective of a dog. Um, and that was for me one of the sort of the biggest, most pleasant surprises this year. A really, really good film. Not one without its flaws, but the fact that they managed to pull off what they did within that movie. Whereas, you are just really kind of relying on telling the story through the perspective of the dog. I think they just did a really good job at pulling that off and sort of keeping me anyway sort of engaged within the story. Death of a Unicorn, I liked quite a bit. I wouldn't say that was a surprise, but I did really, really like Death of a Unicorn. And Last Breath, which was at the beginning of the year, which is based on a true story where they're on an oil rig and one of the crew get trapped on sort of the sea floor. That was a really good film because they managed to sort of but they made me feel like I was there with that person on the floor, the seabed, and it felt claustrophobic. You felt like you could feel the ocean sort of above you, kind of thing, like as if you were there. And I just thought that was a really, really good. I would say that was another one of sort of the surprising experiences in the cinema last year. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Good Boy is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite horror movies of the year, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was that scary. For me, it was more of the emotional story between the dog and his owner. There are moments that gave me goosebumps. There are moments that gave me chills, but I don't think it was the scariest experience of the year. Um, but it definitely, it gave it. Well, it did for me anyway. It gave me chills in moments. Yeah, Sinners, very, very good film. Um, had a really good time with Sinners. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. Uh, really, really liked it. Just a very, very good. vampire movie. Um, did remind me quite a bit of the Until Dusk Till Dawn. Till Dusk Till Dawn, even. What about movies? Biggest disappointments of the year? What would have been your biggest disappointment of the year so far? Friendship. I can't recall that. All right, okay. I can't remember this. I can't remember that coming out. All right, okay. Yeah, I that one completely flew past me. Like, there's been a couple of a few disappointments for me this year. Companion from the beginning of the year was actually. I mean, I didn't hate it. I still had fun with it. I still enjoyed it to a degree. But Companion was something. It was just for me personally, just kind of didn't quite hit the mark. Flight Risk, directed by Mel Gibson, was a massive disappointment. I don't really know what happened there. I was hoping we would get something that captured the spirit of 90s action movies, iconic, and it was just, yeah, I really don't know what Flight Risk was. A movie that I wouldn't say it was surprising, but I enjoyed it, I think, more than most people, and that was Paul W.S. Anderson's movie In the Lost Lands, starring Dave Batista and Mila Djokovic, his wife. Yeah, it came out. When did it come out? So March, and yeah, it was. It's very Paul W.S. Anderson. Um, but it was okay. There was things that I really, really liked about it, actually, from a visual perspective, which I just found odd. But yeah, not nearly as bad as some people made that out to be. Actually, what is that on Rotten Tomatoes? In the Lost Lands. In the Lost Lands. 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it's that bad. It had a 4.7 average score on Internet Movie Database. I think I give it a 6 if I can remember correctly. What did I give it? Because that was a long time ago now. So I give it a 5.5 out of 10. It was average. It was a very average film, but it was one of those average movies where you can get some joy out of. Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. That's what I thought in the Lost Lands was. It is just definitely one of them. It's not unwatchable, and there were things that I liked about it. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Van Helsing. The Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman that came out in the early 2000s, if I remember. Love that film. It's not a great movie, but it's a proper popcorn, fun, enjoyable movie that I just remember really, really liking as a kid. And it's still one of those films that I can go back to and just, have a load of fun with. And it falls into that category for me. So no, we're not actually watching anything at the moment. We are planning on we're gonna start watching Stranger Things, which dropped on the 26th. So I think Stranger Things is on my list of TV shows to watch next. Trying to think, Alien Earth was the last show that I watched that I liked a lot. Um, but it did kind of trip a little bit in the last couple of episodes. But I really liked Alien Earth. Like, I'm a massive fan of the Alien series, and I wasn't really looking forward to it because I never liked the idea of the alien story being based on Earth. But I think they did a really, really good job at sort of exploring very real human themes and using the alien as a catalyst. But it did kind of stumble in its last couple of episodes for me. But Stranger Things is next. Really, I would recommend, like, if you've only seen the first episode, definitely sort of try and watch the second and the third. Um, you could kind of tell actually the first two episodes they kind of work well as one. Like it feels like you had one episode cut in half. Right, okay, I'll add that to my list. Like, I've not heard of it. Let's have a look. Pluribus. Okay, post apocalyptic science fiction television series. Right, okay, this sounds right up my street. Extraterrestrial virus has transformed the rest of the humanity into a peaceful and content hive mind known as the others. That does sound right up my street. Cool. I'm actually gonna might surprise you, but I've never watched Breaking Bad. It's a show that's on my list of shows to watch, but I've never seen it. I've heard a lot about it, and I've been really wanting to catch it. I've just never found the time to sit down and watch it. I know it's definitely one of those shows, along with many films, that I am embarrassed to admit that I've never watched. And that's actually going to be a one of my next top 10 videos. Actually, I'm going to do a top 10 list of movies that I am most embarrassed to admit that I've never watched before, because there are so many classics out there, like TV shows that I'm aware of, but I just never got around to watching. And Breaking Bad is one of them. A really good TV show. A really good one of my favorite TV shows this year was Fallout on Amazon. Was that this year or last year? I think it was the beginning of this year, wasn't it? Yeah, Fallout was one of the best video game adaptations that I've ever seen. Last year, thought so. Wow, I am really behind on my TV shows. I really thought that that was the beginning of this year. Yeah, like, I've got loads of movies, loads of films that I've got to, they're there in my list to catch, to watch, from big directors, and I've just never got around to watching them. Um, one of the biggest ones, probably Godfather. Like, I've seen the first Godfather, but I've never seen the sequel, and I haven't seen the first one in years. But yeah, I've never seen the Godfather Part Two. I've never seen the third Godfather, but Yep, that is that is what I hear. Classic horror film that I'd only seen. Yeah, I remember enjoying the first Godfather. It's just been I've only ever seen it once, and that was a long, long time ago. But I never continued. I never sort of continued with the rest of them. In fact, my father had them on VHS, um, but I never really saw the first one until 5 years ago, maybe something like that on Blu-ray. I think it was. But as I was saying, when it comes to horror, I caught Hellraiser for the first time. I think it was 2 years ago. I'd heard of Hellraiser, but I'd never watched them. And I watched it for the first time 2 years ago, and I did a review for it as a Halloween special, and I really liked it. I couldn't believe that I'd never watched that movie until a couple of years ago. Such a great little horror movie. I haven't seen the sequels yet, mind. I do have them. I just haven't got around to watching them. But that first one, I was really impressed with, especially when it comes to the practical effects. Something that is really kind of just missing today in horror, and it always frustrates me when they rely on CGI. Oh, lovely. That's cool. Yeah, just one of my favorite scenes in that movie is the attic scene, and it's kind of forming into that sort of the life form that kind of the human being. What is the name of that scene called? YouTube. Frank Reborn. Yeah, I haven't seen the new one, but I'd heard good things about it. But I know there's quite a few of them. I remember them coming out as I was growing up, but I just never got around to watching them. I don't know what it was, but I really want to read the book as well. Um, I'd like to read the book. What about Avatar? We got Avatar releasing now. I think that's probably that is the next big movie release this year. Um, Avatar: Fire and Ash. What's your thoughts so far? I think the reactions were released today. The social reactions, and it looks quite mixed. I ho I hope it doesn't flop. I don't want any movie to flop, but I wish James Cameron would just leave them alone now. Like, James Cameron is one of my favorite directors of all time. He is probably in my top 5 directors. But when it comes to the Avatar movies, I've never loved Avatar. I've really liked them, especially the first one. I really admired the first one from a technical perspective. Um, but it didn't really pull me in to to the story and to the characters' journeys in a way that a James Cameron movie usually does. And a lot of that is it's not for me. It's not really how familiar the story is, because you could have a familiar story, but it all depends on the writing and sort of the characters' stories sort of within that journey. And for me, especially the second movie was a big disappointment. It's the first time I've ever come out of a James Cameron movie and be really disappointed. It just wasn't what I'm used to when it comes to a James Cameron movie. Oh, True Lies, fantastic movie. Absolutely love True Lies. Nails the humor in that movie. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger nails the humor in that film. There are just so many funny moments. I always love the scene where they're in the car and he's with Bill Paxton's character, and Bill Paxton is talking about his wife. Obviously, he doesn't know that it's his wife, and he just smacks him in the face. Obviously, he's imagining it, but it's those kind of moments and how they play out. It just really, really makes me laugh. But it's the way in which it's so, the way in which Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of brings the characters to life in those moments. And it could be like simple moments as well, where he's with the binoculars and he's looking at his wife when while she's with Bill Paxton's character, and the lens just pops out to the binoculars. It's like a little silly moment, but it just works. Great movie, True Lies. Love to see a sequel. So the Terminator series, like, obviously I love the first two. Terminator 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time. Um Terminator 3, when it first came out, so what, I would have been about 13, I think. 13, maybe 14. And I liked it. I had fun with it, but it wasn't the first two films. Salvation, I'm actually I actually quite like Salvation. I think it's quite underrated. You've got to admire what it was that they were attempting with that movie. The problem was, from what I'm aware of, is studio interference and sort of changing the ending last minute. And you could kind of feel it. You could sense that the story had changed somewhat. But I really liked sort of the direction they went in with Salvation. It's not a perfect movie, but it has a lot of elements to it that I like. And then you got, what was it? It was Terminator Genesis, which was a massive, massive disappointment. Terminator Genesis was by far the worst Terminator movie. It's just a really, really bad film. And I was a bit surprised actually because you had the same director who had directed Thor, is it the Dark World? And a couple of Game of Thrones episodes. And so, yeah, I was really, really disappointed with Genesis. And then Dark Fate. I like Dark Fate, but again, it was just trying, and it was great to have Linda Hamilton back. It was great seeing her back, as Sarah Connor. But there was just the problem with the sequels are they trying to replicate the magic of that second movie, and they just need to leave that go. The second movie, as far as I'm concerned, is perfection. It's you're never going to replicate it. It had such a very kind of deep human story. It's one of the greatest action movies ever made, and they need to move along from that now. And I think that's why I admire Salvation perhaps more than most people, because it was trying to do something very different. And then you've got the other sequels then like Genesis and Dark Fate, where they were just trying to sort of rehash what's come before. And I think that's been the biggest problem of the Terminator franchise. Dark Fate gets too much hate. Yeah, it definitely does. I like Dark Fate, but it for me, my main issue with it was it's very clear that they are trying to sort of capture the sort of the magic and the spirit of that second movie, and it just doesn't. I don't know. I feel like they just need to move away from that story now, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if you're a gamer, if you play video games, but you got Terminator Resistance, which for me is the true sequel to Terminator 2. Um, it's a superb game, and the story is just it's amazing. It's such a great story, and it ties in nicely with the first two movies without it copying them, without replicating the story. It's doing something different. It was quite clever. I highly recommend it if you play video games. Terminator Resistance is one of the best Terminator stories that we've had since T2. Yeah, it's not a well, it's not a triple A game, and the animation in places isn't great, and I kind of get that. Like, I think I played it. I didn't play it on launch. Like, usually, again, like TV shows, when it comes to video games, I'm a little bit slow, sort of catching up with them and sitting down to play them. But I just remember being pulled in by the story, and it is a game is trying to be Fallout. It is trying to be kind of one of those games where it's giving you choices in what to say to the characters, but it never really goes anywhere with that. But I think if you kind of see through sort of the issues you could say with the game, I think that the story for me was just amazing. I'd highly recommend giving it another go, maybe. Um, cool. Again, so I grew up on the Nintendo. Um, I had the not the Super Nintendo, the NES, and I just completely skipped the Super Nintendo and I went straight to the Nintendo 64. But I've never played a Metroid game. Again, I know a lot about them. I've seen a lot of them, other people playing them, but I've never actually sat down and played a Metroid Prime game before. Kind of moved away from Nintendo after the GameCube. I went to Xbox. Aren't they making a Metroid Prime movie? I'm sure I read that somewhere. Sorry, what did you miss? Was it me admitting that I've never played Metroid Prime? Yeah, I'm not sure if you heard me. I what I asked was oh right, sorry. What I said or what I asked was I'm sure aren't they making a Metroid Prime movie? Aren't they adapting it? I'm not sure. I'm sure I read that somewhere. But I also said that I grew up on Nintendo. So I had the NES, I skipped the Super Nintendo and went straight to Nintendo 64, but I've never played a Metroid Prime game. It's a series of games that I've wanted to play. I've just never got around to playing them. I'm sure I read somewhere that they were making a live action film. Unless I'm thinking of something years ago, maybe. I know we got Zelda on the way, which is being directed by the same guy. I can't remember his name now from the top of my head, but he did the latest Planet of the Apes movie, which I really liked. And so, is it a show or a film? I thought it was a film, but I've always sort of envisioned Zelda on film as having or being very similar to Lord of the Rings, like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. That's how I've always sort of envisioned a live action Zelda game. I absolutely adored Ocarina of Time. Probably the first game that I actually ever fell in love with. with Zelda Ocarina of Time. Yeah, 27. I thought it was next year. What is that guy's name? Zelda movie. Wes Ball is the director, and he's done the Maze Runner movies that I've never watched, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I really liked. I absolutely love the Planet of the Apes movies, by the way. Um, Also, talking about video games, RoboCop that are made by the same team that did the Terminator Resistance game. I highly recommend checking that out as well if you're a RoboCop fan. Uh, Again, a game that really captures the spirit, the essence of the movies in a way that just feels authentic, feels natural, and it's a great story. But Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I highly recommend. If you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend you check it out. Really good film. Yeah. I do actually. No, it's a I'd say visually it looks a lot better than Terminator Resistance. Some of the character animation is still a little, you know, cranky or just not quite right, but they just do such a great job at immersing you into the world of Detroit, and being Robocop. Just the way in which Robocop moves, you feel like a tank. Um, as you walk in through these levels and just blowing people away, blasting people away. It's a really good game. Really good game. I wouldn't say incredibly long. How long did it take me? Apparently, it's approximately 10 to 12 hours, but I think I did in slightly less than that. The camera is not focusing. There we go. That's something that I'm going to have to fix for the next live stream. But no, thank you for joining me on this, my first ever live stream. I absolutely appreciate it. It's been quite a long day, actually. Well, I'm on the, what's it, like second day of annual leave. And I've actually done quite a bit over the last couple of days. And today's been quite a long day. So, but no, thank you. No, I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate your support. It means the world. I'm probably going to wrap this up now. We're coming up to an hour. Do you know what? That was actually quite a quick hour. I cannot get over that it's been an hour, but yeah, and I'm probably gonna sign off now. But again, thank you for spending your time with me. And again, like I said, just thank you for the support. It means the world. But I'm hoping to do more of these, to be honest. I do quite like the kind of the sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? It's just something about them where I feel like just feels a bit more natural, just casually talking about the things that we love. And yeah, I am hoping to do a lot more of these kind of videos. So yeah, and thank you. Yep. So that's it from me for now. Yeah, I'll be catching you soon.